that's an honor for me to talk to you now here in this environment. And do you want to say something, like to introduce you, like and why you are here in Chicago now?
Well, thank you, Stefan. It's an honor to be with you and to be talking about Oliver. I'm Dr. Mohamad Bydon, chairman of neurosurgery at the University of Chicago.
I have a few questions which are interesting for us, but also for the people, and also in general for spinal cord injuries.
Sure.
When you first heard about Oliver, about what happened to us, to Oliver, what were you thinking, and why did you consider to take this case? Why did you even talk to us? I mean, we think that you have a lot of requests to take a look at people with an injury like that.
I get requests, multiple requests per day, and it's difficult to keep up because there's just so many emails, things that come in, both to me and to my team members, and I have 4 team members that receive requests, and it's still hard to keep up. Oliver's story was striking from the beginning. A 2-year-old with a dramatic injury that really is inconsistent with life. He had a complete transection of his spinal cord. He had a disconnection, a dissociation between his atlas, which is the top ring that holds the head together, yes, and between the axis and between the rest of the spine, a complete dissociation. And that's a very difficult injury. And between the occiput also, which is the base of the brain. Mm-hmm. So essentially, his injury was not consistent with being able to live. And then he'd had a surgery before he came here, but with not stabilization, but where some bone was removed and muscle was removed, further destabilizing his condition. That creates more instability biomechanically. And so all of that, you think, his head is essentially not connected to his spine. How is he surviving? And yet he survived for almost 2 months, thanks to you, Stefan and Laura. And you were so diligent in his care. And when he came, it was funny, we saw how diligent you guys were, how with the movements you were so careful. And you think if he didn't have you, one wrong movement here or there could have been catastrophic. Mm-hmm. And so his story was so compelling. Here's someone who typically wouldn't live, and yet he lived. He not only lived, he went home. Obviously he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't able to move. He wasn't able to do anything. But at the same time, you, the parents, had taken great care of him. Here's 2 parents who care a lot. And so just something that felt different about this case than about Oliver's case.
Thank you again for taking this case. After our first call I can remember it was a 4 or 5 minutes call, and you said, yeah, please send me the pictures, I will take a look at it. And I thought, okay, I prepared the pictures, the MRI and the CT, I send it to you, and then maybe in 2-3 weeks we hear from you. But you called us the next day at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, but what were you thinking when you saw the first time the pictures of the MRI of his neck?
I'm an early riser. Most days I'm in the office by 5. And, when we spoke, I thought, well, let me just see what these images look like. That'll give me an idea. It can't be as bad as what's being described. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I got to see the records and the images, and it was worse than what I had imagined. So it was striking, but at the same time, he was clearly unstable. Mm-hmm. And it didn't sit right that a kid at home in a collar would just be left with that amount of instability. I thought we should do something to fix that. Mm-hmm. Now, who knows what'll happen thereafter? Yeah. But in my mind, I thought we should fix that. This is, although initially they said, donate his organs and things like that, he was weeks beyond that now.
Yes.
And so I didn't like the idea of just leaving him like that.
One question you already answered, how Oliver came here to the hospital, in which conditions, or you were actually kind of surprised, and also your team, that Oliver was in a physically in a good condition, even that his neck was looked like that, and the disconnection, all that.
And there were other things too.
Yeah.
So you remember the catheter, like
Yes.
the urine catheter had all the things in it and the infection and concerns over that. When he initially came, there was the fevers, and we were concerned about the fevers and there was the blood pressure.
Yes.
And we were concerned about the blood pressure. And even when he came, it was surprising to see that how you had kept him alive, honestly, because any little thing could have undone that. And as you recall, there were many reasons not to proceed with surgery, because people said, "Oh, look at the urine, look at the fevers, look at." But in my mind, I thought we have to proceed. This is why you came, and we have to keep moving.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, because we were also talking, Laura and I. You just started here the new position in the 1st of July, and then 10 days later, in the 11th of July, this was the first big surgery of Oliver. So you bring a small kid. There was also kind of risk for your reputation, or in general, I don't know if, but you wanted to do it. You wanted to do it for us, for Oliver. So that's awesome.
I started July 1, and my first surgery was July 1 as well. So there were many patients who were waiting for me.
Okay.
But Oliver's case was a standout in my mind. And you're right, it was risky. A new chair, a new hospital,
Yes.
and we're lucky here. Comer's a great place. And so it was my first admission to Comer, to the children's hospital, although I had some admissions to the adult hospital. And you're absolutely right, it was risky. But as I weighed the risk benefit, it was absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. And even in that moment, I thought, I'm not going to leave this kid like that.
Thank you. And from your perspective now, after the surgery, after almost 6 weeks here, tomorrow we are getting released here. What did you surprise the most after the surgery, in the recovery of Oliver? What were things you maybe didn't even expect, or is everything in plan?
So in addition to the disconnection, the spinal cord was herniating into the front of the neck, into the bones, and going into the vertebral body and into the front of the neck. And that's why we decided to do the second surgery. And so it was in many ways worse than, what we'd initially looked at. And yet, Oliver himself was so strong. It's weird to think of a 2-year-old having strength, but he has so much strength. And you, his parents, Stefan and Laura, the two of you were clearly committed to going the distance, that you wanted to see this through for your son. And so, we proceeded with the first, 2 major surgeries. An adult would have a hard time getting through 2 surgeries like that, much less a child. And in a 2-year-old, they don't have a lot of blood, so even minor blood loss can become a very big deal. And so it's obviously high risk. We reconnected his head back to the spine. We reconstructed the lining of the spine. And then we came from the front and placed the spinal cord back where it belongs, reconstructing the lining again, and placing bone graft. And you do these 2 major surgeries. Let's say that Oliver was a young, healthy adult. It would be a struggle. Let's say it was an older adult, struggle. And yet he came through it. The first few days were harrowing. His heart stopped. The swelling in the brain that occurred because we put the fluid back together, so all the fluid came up. We placed a drain. We began to react very quickly. And in those first 48 to 72 hours, people were thinking, is Oliver going to survive? And to your point, I'm the one who had brought Oliver here. But I never had any doubt about you and Laura and what was possible for Oliver. And we got through that period of very difficult days and nights. You lived it. Every second, you or Laura at the bedside, every second. In the hospital, I'd never seen them react to a patient like this. All the workers, even when their shift stopped and they were leaving at 3 in the morning, they would come by to say goodnight to Oliver. Workers all over, everybody in the hospital started asking about Oliver. And so those days were very difficult. And, but he was so strong and he's so special. And he got through it, and the multidisciplinary team that we had here was exceptional. There's very complicated transplants called triple transplants. They're 3 organ transplants. There's 50 of them that have occurred in the world. 26 have happened at University of Chicago. So, and there's places that do your basic transplant, but this is for the most complex. And this is a unique place. One of the reasons that I'm here is when it comes to cases like this, it's so well equipped to step up for the most complex and the hardest cases. And that's one of the unique things. And we saw that in surgery. My colleagues in neurosurgery, my colleagues in otolaryngology, my colleagues in plastic surgery, Oliver's brace had been on the whole 2 months before surgery. Yeah. So when we removed it, we saw, the tegaderm, we saw different linings all around, and the skin had an abrasion. And then again, at every step, so he comes in and there's the fevers, and maybe we shouldn't do surgery. No, we're going to proceed. And then the abrasion. Well, maybe we shouldn't do surgery, because that was a whole other discussion there when you see that. Nope, we're going to proceed. And we kept pushing, and Oliver kept reacting. And so it was really extraordinary. Once we got through, and with a condition like this, there's ups and downs. There's good days and bad days. There's, good string and a bad string. But once we got through that very dark period, we thought we were going to lose him. And we came out of that. All of a sudden, he's moving his hand. And initially, at every point the doubts are there, and at every point he proved us wrong. So initially it's like, maybe it's a reflex. Well, he's squeezing. You tell him, squeeze my hand, he squeezes your hand. Laura goes up to him and says, let's hold hands. He holds hands. He got mad at you one time and pushed you away. So it's volitional. Moving his legs, and we thought, whoa. And then able to sense urination. And then he would tell you, I have to pee, and you say, okay, go ahead and pee, and he does it. Beyond our wildest expectations. Nothing like this has been reported in neurosurgery, in spinal cord injury, in this condition. There's never been anything like this, any scenario like this. He was never supposed to live. Yeah. And if he lived, he was never supposed to do anything. Yeah. I remember the first day when we realized that his hands are moving. We thought, okay, so now in a wheelchair, he could move it himself. Yes. Each of these things makes a difference and gives an advancement. And then he started breathing over the ventilator. And he could breathe over it. And where it was giving him 40, he was breathing 40 breaths, but the ventilator was only giving him 20. So he was breathing on his own. And all of those things were just so surprising. And then we had other days in the ICU, difficult days, where we thought, oh no, did we lose him? The respirator, the ventilator changes. And every time he came back, you, the parents at the bedside, the whole team jumping, and he would just, I'm glad that we never had to go through it, but everybody's so much pulling for Oliver, the whole community.
Yes.
There's people in the city that don't have anything to do with Oliver or with the University of Chicago who they see us and they stop us. They say, you're Oliver's doctor. So it's everybody's following. We're getting messages from strangers about Oliver. So everybody, the whole community has come together for him. He's very, very special.
Yeah, it's for me it's very touching to hear all that all this progresses he made, because I'm the dad, so I hope for the best. But if you're underlining now all the things, how special they are, and yeah, this makes this whole case also for us very special. I mean, it's our kids, so it will always be the most special case. But we realize how many people also now all over the world following this, and it's getting more and more so. But there were also a few questions. I have 3 more from the community in general for spinal cord, and
Please.
if it is okay for you, I would ask them.